Signature abilities are generally defined as an ability that is limited to one Pokémon, one evolutionary line, or a legendary group within a given generation. On some Pokémon, these are what completely define their design, like Stance Change on Aegislash, Zero to Hero on Palafin, or Illusion on Zoroark. However, in this video, I'm going to be talking about Pokémon with pseudo-signature abilities, a term I made up that I am defining as an ability that is not a signature ability, but in certain contexts may as well be, due to it only being relevant on one Pokémon. I recently did this same video but with moves, which I recommend you check out. Like I did with that video, I will mainly be considering these Pokémon's abilities in the context of Scarlet and Violet competitive, mostly VGC, but unlike that video, I will also be considering the lore behind these abilities to an extent. You'll see what I mean when I get to some of these entries. Before getting into the real entries though, I'm going to do a quick speed round of abilities that are signature abilities in Scarlet and Violet, but only due to the other Pokemon not being available in the game. I don't think these are as interesting as the rest of the abilities I'll be covering in this video, but I know for sure I'd be getting some comments asking about them if I didn't mention them somewhere. Those are Download being the signature ability of the Porygon line since Genesect is not in Scarlet and Violet, Truant being the signature ability of Slacking and Slackoth since Durant is not in Scarlet and Violet, Furcoat being the signature ability of Alolan Persian since Furfrou is not in Scarlet and Violet, Forewarn being the signature ability of the Drowsy line since the Munna and Smoochum lines are not in Scarlet and Violet, Pixelate being the signature ability of Sylveon since Mega Gardevoir and Mega Altaria are not in Scarlet and Violet, Simple being the signature ability of Numel since the Bidoof and Woobat lines are not in Scarlet and Violet, Mega Launcher being the signature ability of the Clauncher line since Mega Blastoise is not in Scarlet and Violet, Shadow Tag being the signature ability of the Gothita line since Mega Gengar and the Wynot line are not in Scarlet and Violet, and Berserk being the signature ability of Galarian Moltres since Drampa is not in Scarlet and Violet. Now that we have all of those out of the way, our first real entry goes to Stamina being the pseudo-signature ability of Archaludon. Stamina grants the user a +1 defense boost every time it gets hit with an attack. This used to be the signature ability of Mudbray and Mudsdale, but starting in the Indigo Disc DLC of Scarlet and Violet, Archaludon also gets this ability. While you might automatically associate this ability with Mudsdale because it's been the only one with it for 6 years, it is essentially non-existent in the competitive scene. In singles, it's been ranked in the PU and NU tiers, and in doubles, the only relevant usage I was able to find at all was VGC 2017 specifically. Other than that, Archaludon completely outclasses it with its legendary-like stats, busted signature move, and great typing. With just a few stamina boosts, Archaludon's body presses begin to hit like a truck with its already high base 130 defense. In singles, it's banned to the Uber tier, and in doubles, it's not nearly as dominant in formats where Zamazenta is legal, but outside of those formats like Reg F and Reg H, it is a very strong option. And no, I don't care how good Mudbray is in Little Cup. Next, we have Poison Heal being the pseudo-signature ability of Gliscor. Poison Heal allows the user to gain 1/8 of their max HP every turn if they are poisoned instead of taking damage. The only other Pokemon that gets this ability is the Shroomish line, but they generally like to use the Technician ability instead of Poison Heal. Technician increases the power of moves with a base power of 60 or below by 50%. Since Breloom has a high attack stat and access to a lot of moves with a base power of 60 or below, it makes great use of this ability. Its stats are also much more oriented towards offense, so a more offensive oriented ability fits perfectly. Gliscor on the other hand has stats that are much more oriented towards defense, so a more defense oriented ability fits it perfectly. With a Toxic Orb to inflict poison, and Protect to ensure that you stay safe for a turn for the poison to activate, Gliscor makes great use of this ability, making it its pseudo-signature ability. Next, we have Corrosion being the pseudo-signature ability of Salazzle. Corrosion allows the user to be able to poison steel and poison types when they would normally be immune. This was the signature ability of Salazzle and Salandit in Gen 7 and 8, but Glamora and Glimmet also get this ability starting in Scarlet and Violet. Glamora never really uses it though, since it would much rather use its signature ability Toxic Debris instead. Toxic Debris causes the user to set up toxic spikes on the opposing side of the battlefield when hit with a physical attack. With access to Stealth Rock as well, Glamora is one of the best Pokemon for setting up hazards in singles. While Salazzle is pretty bad in singles, with its highest ranking only being RU in Sun and Moon, and quite literally non-existent in doubles, it is still the only Pokemon that uses the Corrosion ability, making it its Pseudo-Signature ability. Next, we have a really boring entry, but it is at least kind of funny, which is Slow Start being the Pseudo-Signature ability of Regigigas. You might be thinking that this is the signature ability of Regigigas, but you'd be wrong. For some reason, this terrible ability was also given to Varoom. Regigigas is known for having busted base stats, but a terrible ability that makes it pretty much completely useless competitively, outside of maybe wheezing neutralizing gas shenanigans. This is so character defining that no matter what other Pokemon get this ability, I can really only imagine it on Regigigas. Especially since Varoom getting this ability is such a recent addition, and it gets another ability too. The only reason I can think of for Varoom getting Slow Start is that it's based on an engine cylinder, and it's a joke that sometimes your engine can be slow to start, so it gets Slow Start. For the next entry, I'm going to do a bundle of all terrain and weather setting abilities. Terrain and weather setting abilities tend to be reserved for legendary Pokemon, as it is usually an integral part of the game's story or their individual lore. Look at Groudon and Kyogre. Their whole thing is setting weather, and Rayquaza's whole thing is neutralizing that weather. It kinda acts like the older sibling that breaks up the fight between their two idiot younger siblings. Look at the Tapus. Each one of them protects the island they reside in and set terrain corresponding to one of their types. In Scarlet and Violet, Koraidon and Miraidon are the two strongest of the Paradox Pokemon, all of which have abilities that boost their highest stat when exposed to either harsh sunlight or electric terrain, and these two are able to set that up themselves. Since legendary Pokemon aren't always legal in competitive formats, with Smogon banning a lot of them to Ubers, and VGC allowing them only in a restricted format, the non-legendary Pokemon that get these abilities are the only eligible users at times, thus they function as their pseudo-signature abilities. So here's what non-legendary Pokemon I consider to be the best for each weather and terrain setting ability. Drought goes to Torkoal, Drizzle goes to Pelipper, Snow Warning goes to Alolan Ninetales, Sandstream goes to Tyranitar, Psychic Surge goes to Indeedee Female, Grassy Surge goes to Rillaboom, Misty Surge goes to Galarian Weezing, and Electric Surge goes to Pinkerton. Next, we have Power of Alchemy being the pseudo-signature ability of Alolan Muck. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This is the signature ability of Alolan Muck, so why is it on here? Well, you're right that Power of Alchemy is the signature ability of Alolan Muck, but this ability is the exact same as Receiver, the signature ability of Passimian. Since these abilities only differ in name, I'm counting them as the same ability. Power of Alchemy and Receiver are doubles exclusive abilities that allow the user to take the ability of its fainted ally. Alolan Muck is notorious for using this ability in conjunction with Smeargle, as it allows for Muck to gain Smeargle's Moody ability. Combined with some evasion boost from Minimize, Muck becomes extremely difficult to deal with if you don't have the right counterplay. The reason that Passimian never uses this ability is because it gets Defiant, a great ability in doubles with how common Intimidate is. It also doesn't really benefit from gaining its ally's ability nearly as much as Muck, since it has worse overall defenses, a worse defensive typing, and doesn't get Minimize. Lastly, we have Guard Dog being the pseudo-signature ability of Okidogi. Guard Dog prevents the user from being forcibly switched out by an opponent, and raises the user's attack by one stage when intimidated instead of lowering. This is a new ability introduced in Scarlet and Violet, and it was the signature ability of Mabosstiff, but starting in the Teal Mask DLC, Okidogi also gets this ability. Okidogi is a member of the Loyal Three, the legendary trio that all get the ability Toxic Chain as their base abilities. They all have hidden abilities too though, and Okidogi was given Guard Dog. While Okidogi isn't used that much competitively, it's still used infinitely more than Mabosstiff. Sorry Arvin. Even when Mabosstiff is used, it has two other abilities to use instead, Intimidate and Stakeout. But either way, with how mid Mabosstiff's stats are, Okidogi is really the only relevant user of Guard Dog in competitive Pokemon, making it Okidogi's pseudo-signature ability. And those are Pokemon with pseudo-signature abilities. Let me know in the comments if you feel that I missed any, or disagree with any of my reasonings. Other than that, I really appreciate if you watched all the way to the end. If you want to support me and my channel, the best way to do so is just by leaving a nice comment. I recently started doing early access to videos for members, but other than that, I currently do not have any other perks for members, so please do not join unless you really want to support me and you are financially capable of doing so. Likes are also one of the ways in which YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves it, I would appreciate it. I post Pokemon related content every Sunday at 10 AM Eastern Standard Time, as well as some shorts thrown in here and there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.